All right. So we had a productive discussion, and we'll be getting together again next week. We are going to go ahead if there's a special session on September 9th. And I guess that's kind of where we are. But it was a good discussion.
September 9th?
If there is a special session, it will be on September 9th. So there's your news.
Is there a question? Are there questions? And if so, what are the questions?
We're still exploring, as we've been all along, whether there's a way to accomplish the disaster relief without a special session, and we'll see if we can do that. But and then we're also continuing to consider the scope of the session.
How would you do a special? How would you do the disaster relief without a special session?
It's not clear that we can, but there may be some options that we'd like to explore.
What are the other options you're exploring when it comes to taxes?
There's. We just need to explore whether there's money from other disasters that we can that is movable.
Is anything on or off the table?
I think what's on the table is disaster relief.
That's it.
And then and other things continue to be under discussion.
What just list the other things that you've talked about?
Just what you would expect. What other things would be part of the session, including tax relief, and we haven't come to a conclusion on that.
Besides farm implement tax and warehousing?
I believe that and this we can probably talk about. My position is we should do farm tax, and that's what we should focus on. But obviously, other people have different discussions. But because we have this option of exploring whether we can do it, an alternative to getting disaster relief to people, we didn't resolve that issue.
Have you seen the letter that we were presented with basically the Republicans wanted to do the three
Sure.
B2B taxes, so the $300 million? Is that on the table?
Again, we're continuing to have discussions. I think they're productive. I've said all along, I don't know how we pay for that, and it gets complicated to be able to pay for that. I think that's the big challenge, and that certainly hasn't been resolved yet.
Do you think it's worthwhile to work?
Just real quick, so just the bottom line is here, if there is a special session, you've agreed it will be September 9th, but you have not yet agreed that there will be a special session, and you don't know what specific issues would be covered.
That would be about it, yes. Good summary. So thank you.
There's not a lot of news here.
Sometime next week. We don't know. It's not certain yet. Yep.
What do you have to do before that next meeting?
To find out if there's other options available.
Senator Hann, can you say, is the governor or your DFL counterparts willing to listen on the other business to business
Absolutely.
tax?
We had a very, very cordial discussion, and we all are interested in the same thing. Primarily, we're trying to figure out how to do the disaster relief, and a special session is expensive, and so we're looking at if there is a way to do it without a special session. We want to fully explore that, and there are a couple of questions, I think, more of technical nature of whether we can find a way to do that, and we're going to try to answer those in the next couple of days.
But were they willing to listen? You're very focused on the warehouse tax and some of these other business-to-business taxes.
The governor made it very clear that he's always been interested, and his point is how do you finance it, how do you pay it? I think that is a question, how do you pay for those things in the context of you've got a budget that has those assumptions in it, and if you take those taxes out, then you've got potentially a structure problem in your budget, and those are things that I think we want to continue to have some discussions about.
If you get closer to September.
Senator Bakk, just real quick, are you willing to listen to those arguments, not just about the farm equipment repair tax, but the other business?
Well, certainly. I mean, if we look at further tax relief, it's going to create a budget problem. So the question is kind of where would we find some new revenue to pay for those or find some additional spending cuts. We had a good conversation about that. Whatever we do, it has to be structurally balanced. So I think some people are going to do some work over the weekend and try and see if we can. Ideally, if we could figure it out without a special session, that would be the best. Taxpayers wouldn't incur the cost of a special session.
If you get closer,
if we can, we will. And we had Commissioner Showalter on the phone talking about some other options.
if you get closer to September 9th and you can't pay for it without a special session and you can't come to an agreement on taxes, are you guys willing to just strip the session down to the disaster relief, get it done and get out?
I think we all have an agreement that we want to make sure we get the disaster relief done, and there's no disagreement from anybody in the room that we need to find a way to do that. So we'll find a way.
Senator Bakk, did you say there are ways to do something without a special session? Did I hear you correctly?
That's what we're exploring.
What, executive order, or what are you talking about?
Well, there are previous disasters where there's some money that was appropriated, and we're exploring whether some of that unexpended money could be somehow transferred or loaned if there's some authority in law to be able to move some money around that's previously been appropriated to previous disasters.
You wouldn't have to have a special session for anything. Is that what you're saying?
So that's what we're trying to find out. The law is a little ambiguous on that subject.
Did all five of you agree that was the preferable route to try to do it without a special session? Yes?
Even though that means you couldn't repeal any of these taxes you want repealed?
Well, I think there's always a cost to do a special session. You don't want to do one unless you need to, and so if there's an opportunity to do the disaster relief without a special session, obviously we would entertain doing that, yes.
So, and I just want to be clear that one of the most important things is that whatever we do is paid for, and no one has come up with a way to pay for any of this tax relief, and so that I think that's significant.
Senator Hann, do you have any thoughts on that and how to pay for, I think it's about a $300 million cost, what you're calling for in terms of repealing the business-to-business taxes. Any ideas on how to pay for that?
Yes?
Would you like to share them?
No. There are lots of ways to do this. We talked about that, the details of how you do that. What we suggested is that if we commit to trying to find a way, then we can have a full discussion about that. But there are ways to do it, and we've got a $38 billion budget, whatever it is, $300 million or some lesser piece of that. We could find that if we want to do that. The details of that, I'll wait till we get further down the road, assuming we get to the point of having that agreement to do that.
Thank you.
Do you have a deadline for when you really have to decide if you're having a special session?
Well, we'll know that next week. We'll get the legal information. We'll know that next week.
Speaker Thissen, you said no one has proposed a way to pay, with the exception of the farm machinery repeal?
The farm machinery.
And can you say whether or not taking that off the bottom line would have an impact on the school shift payment?
Ultimately could if the school shift is not paid off over the course of the next biennium. All right, thank you. Which we fully expect it will.